Welcome.
To the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 115 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. As per usual, going to be hacking on some Firefox stuff today. Nothing too unusual. Same old business. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're coming back, if you've seen me before doing this stuff, good to have you back. Let's get started. So, here's my screen. Oh, there's a big gap over here, sorry. That's probably annoying. Let me move my mobile green screen around there. So the agenda for today is October 4th, 2017. A reminder that no plan survives breakfast. And speaking of breakfast, I'm just going to have a quick bite of my sandwich here. It is lunchtime in Toronto. One moment. Pardon me, I should have finished my lunch before I started, but I got started a little late. No plan survives breakfast. I don't really have a set plan on how things are going to go today. This is not a scripted show or anything. I'm just making it up as I go. I have a sense of things that I kind of want to do. That's what this agenda is all about. But how things are going to go down, who knows? This might go all horribly wrong. It's happened before. Might get distracted, might get pulled off into some rat hole of a bug, and that's okay. Just keep in mind. So a quick self-check. You can hear me. I'm recording, not dropping frames. Okay, good. One thing I wanted to point out is the episode guide. There is a community-driven episode guide to the joy of coding. So you may already be familiar with this. If so, great. And if not, well, check this out. If you click on the link in the agenda. Oh, before I even mention, so clicking on the if you're watching this video, clicking on the video is not going to be very, very useful. These links, however, you might want to click on them, but you can't. Well, actually, you can, because if you are watching this on YouTube, check the video description, because there's a link to the agenda here. There. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, it's in the additional links section down below. If you're watching this on Facebook, there's a pinned comment. And if you're watching this on Twitch, if you're one of the fine folks on Twitch, I'm about to drop it in the Twitch chat. Here's the agenda. And here is the rate this episode link. So the rate this episode link allows you to let me know what you think. It's a form that allows you to give me feedback on what you thought of the episode in particular. So go ahead and follow those links if you want to follow along and click on things. And in particular, check out the episode guide. So I'd already clicked on it. I don't need to open a new tab. But this is a community-driven effort to sort of document what I do from episode to episode. And I've got up to 113 here. And so they're usually pretty short. I mean, the episode guide for 113 just kind of lists the general topics and things that I worked on. Some of them are even shorter, like some of the earlier ones are just like a link to the episode and the Evernote agenda. And that's fine too. And so if you feel like adding things, your own notes, maybe some findings or discoveries while you were watching the video, or maybe you thought something that was kind of neat that you saw me do, or a trick, or maybe a mistake I made that you think's worth documenting, send me a pull request. And if you're not sure how to do that, if you're not sure how to send me a pull request, because this is all hosted on GitHub, by the way, here's a guide. There's a guide in the agenda for creating a pull request. And I've never used this guide before, but a viewer named SmurfD used it and recommended it. So check it out if you want to contribute. And that's that. And the other thing I want to mention before we get into hacking is I'm actually going to be in London at the end of this month. So in less than a month, something called the Mozilla Festival, or MozFest for short, is happening in a place called Ravensbourne College in London. And I'm one of the speakers. I'm not really a speaker. I'm more of an exhibitor, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to be doing what I'm doing here right now in London at the very end of the month. It's October 27th to 29th. So I'll probably be doing like 1.5 hour bursts of just live hacking on Firefox in probably a pretty noisy room. I'll try and stream it live, so if you can't be there in London, that's okay, you can join me. But if you're going to be in London and you feel like buying a ticket, come stop by and say hello, and we can talk. You don't even have to wait for me to be done the episode. We can, I'll bring like a little microphone maybe, and then we can have a quick discussion about what I'm hacking on or something, and we can have you streamed for the episode. So tickets are apparently pretty reasonable. It's £45, £45 for the weekend, £3 if you're a youth. If you're 18 and under, that's pretty good for if you're a youth. And so, yeah, come check it out. There you go, 27th to 29th. Watch The Joy of Coding more live than usual at MozFest. So let's get down to hacking. I haven't really done much preparation as per usual. My editor is like all in some other part of the code. I don't even know if my repository is in a clean state. Let's find out. Where am I right now? Right, I just fixed an intermittent orange. I actually need to rebase the patches that that's the first step. I need to rebase the patches that that I'm working on here. So that's what I'm going to do first. So let's find where those patches are. I use hgwhip, and here they are. The IPC interface, render and clear layers. We're going to do this. So rebase that onto central. And I'm also going to, I'm not entirely sure where the work's going to happen, because I also have these patches on beast mode, which is my Linux box, and that's where I've been doing most of my investigations and work, because I was able to use RR over there. And so I might end up working on the patches on beast mode, but just in case, I'll kick off a build here locally. Oh, conflict! So that I'd have to deal with anyways in the future. So I'm going to resolve this conflict. What is the conflict? Remove entry, remove element. So should it be remove entry now? What happened? Tab child.cpp. Remove entry. So recently... Oh! Make entries here unique. This actually... It sounds like it's fixed in 58. 9 days ago. Oh wow! It looks like actually Beavis Seng has actually fixed a bug that I attempted to fix in my patch. So I can actually get rid of one of my patches, which is nice. Yeah, this is great. This is great. So I'm going to mark this as a blocker for the work. So async, wait, make tab warming work. Because this is what we're working on, is this bug here, 1397426, is making tab warming work again. So it depends on Beavis's work. It turns out that the crasher I was dealing with and have a patch for in this stack has been fixed by Beavis in bug such and such. So I'll remove that patch from this collection now. I'm pretty sure there's an isolated patch for it. Oh no, there isn't. I'm gonna have to undo it from this one patch. So the things I added, these asserts. So I'm gonna take a look at the asserts I added. So I think it was something like this. Yeah, this is the difference. So I need to revert this. But I'll do that after I fix up. So I'm in the middle of a rebase right now. I can't really remove that stuff, so I'll Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Shell site is active. Yikes. Some of this is pretty tricky. So Beavis moved the is active stuff. This is what? Render layers? Render layers. And he changed tab child.cpp so that this is the new code for how we do adding to the hash table. This pointer, so instead of a new, okay, so I'm gonna copy this. I'm actually gonna delete this. I'm gonna replace the other usage, which was down here. Nope, over here. Put entry. And then I think I can just get rid of this. And then maybe I can just get rid of this assert. So that essentially, I think that's gotten rid of, oh, and then I have to get rid of this other stuff. Right. I think I can now resolve that as fixed. We'll continue. Wait for this rebase to finish.
Mamma mia!
Good, and it is done. Okay. Sorry, just making sure that there aren't any emergency emails. Okay. So now I'm going to build this. Let's hope it builds. And yeah, let's do it. So let's build. I'm actually, before I build it, I'm going to push this stuff to the review repository, mainly so that I can pull it down to beast mode on its rebase. Or I'm going to pull down these change sets onto beast mode so that it's dealing with more recent snapshot of Mozilla Central, because this Mozilla Central I think is from yesterday. What? Remote has heads on branch that are not known locally. What? Push creates new remote head. Update our tip. What's that mean? Oh, push our tip review. That's why. Gotta push the review repository. Can't push it to Mozilla Central. That's crazy talk. Roop-a-doo. It's a zippy browser. That's a spicy browser.
That's right.
So zippy. If you're not using Firefox 57 or up yet, you should totally do that because it's so much zippier and faster. Holy smokes, this browser flies. We've been working really hard to make it zippy and fast for you. So come check it out. Give 57 a try. If you're not sure how to do that, where is there? Get Firefox. Try Firefox Quantum. There's like try new Firefox in pre-release versions. So if you go here and drop this in the agenda, you can check it out. Whoops, that's not it. Nope, that's not it either. Here it is. Get Firefox 57 for mega fastness. Bam. You might enjoy that if you like speed. Here, let me pump up the font a little bit so you can read some of this. Reduce and then bring that up. Okay. So now I've got this rebase and I pushed it to try and I haven't published it, and that's okay because what I'm going to do is look at the patches. I'm actually just going to push or pull this down onto beast mode. Just because they're not published doesn't mean beast mode doesn't have access to it. So I'm going to SSH into beast mode and get out. I think I had some like work in progress patches here. Because I'd realized something. There's like an ordering issue that I need to deal with. Yeah, I'd done a bunch of logging. So I'm going to shelve all that temporarily. And now I'm going to pull from review that. Sorry, wrong repository. What is it? This is the repository. Pull from this repository, please. Take a browse on the wild side. Do it. Someone said something in Twitch. Oh no. We can tell what your password is from hearing your keystrokes. What is it? What's my password? I don't even know what my password is. I just memorize the locations on the keyboard. I think it's some nonsense string. Alright. I mean, it's possible that you could like, it wouldn't surprise me if there's like a way you can create an acoustic model if you were like train it on each key with this microphone. Maybe you'd probably have to place the microphone in one part of the room. Sorry, I didn't mean to put my hand in your face. You put a microphone in one part of the room and you just train it on each key so that maybe there are minute differences in how each key sounds, and then have someone type something. I'll bet it's possible to get some kind of replay or like predictive model, not predictive model, a way you can like try and decode the acoustic model or the acoustics of the typing into an interpretation that might be reasonably close to the truth. It wouldn't surprise me. I've heard about that kind of research before. It's pretty frightening, and there's not much you can do about it unless you have an ultra quiet keyboard, I guess. Even then, you'll just have people listening for like the flow of electrons. So let's build this. Build J100. We're going full-blown ice cream cluster. Security researchers did this with Skype. Alright. Well, if you find out my password, then I guess you can access beast mode if you can get into the network, the internal network, and then I'm screwed. You have access to my Linux box, which doesn't have anything of value on it. That's not already open source, so too bad, I guess, for me. Okay, so that's going to build for a while, and while we're waiting for that to build, I guess one of the things I want to look at was the patch I'd shelved, and maybe we can figure out what I was dealing with. So this was a couple of days ago. I think it was last week. The end of the week. Oh no, not capital L. What I had done was figured out that if you send a render layers command, what was it? We have this thing setting the dock shell as active and also render layers. Um, that's something that we've been working. That's what this bug's all about, is to make it possible to render the layers without setting the dock shell as active. It makes it so that the layers are available for the compositor to show whenever you click on the tab, so that we've warmed them up. So it's basically like paint, upload layers, and wait. And if we don't click on the tab eventually, then we unload the layers and we get rid of them. And the problem I'm facing is that we also have setting the dock shell as active. And when you do that, when you set the dock shell as active, you need to like current behavior is to also render the layers. So saying go just render layers is like a subset of the actions that occur whenever you set the dock shell as active, and we need uh, I think we need to train the browser code to be aware. We need the code needs to be made aware that you can do one or the other, and that one is a subset of the other. Because I think there's some code that's expecting, like there's an ordering issue that we have to deal with, and there's some conditions that are being set in one path and not in the other path, and they need to be set in both paths. And that's what I was dealing with here. It's a little tricky to explain. I was doing a lot of, like, you can see here, I'm like dump debugging to try and figure out why a test was failing. Because the reason I'm doing all this is because there's a test failing, and so that's what this is all about, making the test not fail. Um, yeah. A tab switch wasn't completing, or a tab wasn't unloading on time, or unloading properly. And I think my solution is to just like have this helper function that no matter what happens, like if you call set dock shell as active, do all of the common things, and then set dock shell as active, which will also maybe render layers or unrender layers. And then we'll also have the render layers function, which will do all of the common things, and then render layers or not render layers. So you have this, like, because like that will occur in the parent side. In the child side, we already got the code that does the sort of um, we have the render layer stuff that's being called by the set dock shell is active in the event that set dock shell was active was called. So it's just that we have to mirror that sort of relationship on the parent side as well. Whoops, didn't mean to try that out. I've got, I think I was trying to get this to build on the parent side, on my laptop as well, but that's not happening. I didn't do that, and that's okay. We're just gonna do this work on beast mode actually. Did the rebase on, excuse me, did the rebase on my laptop, doing the actual work on beast mode. Let's see what the what my Ccache statistics are. I am missing the cache a lot. This build is going to take a little while. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for this build to complete, because it might take a little while, unfortunately, we can try to do something else, because we need this build to finish in order to do something. So I've got this other bug, kick off preloading about new tab at a better time. We could pull that down. What was I dealing with here? A focus problem. What was the focus problem? Right. I think I wrote it down. Hopefully I wrote it down. Kick off preloading at a better time. One of them seems to be focus related. I had an RR replay. Ugh, also on beast mode. So I need beast mode for both of these problems. Okay. In that case, maybe we'll work on something else. Let's work on something else entirely different. So there's a bug that I was handed by Felipe. Um, this bug here. We're gonna investigate this one. So I'm gonna, while we're waiting for the information or the build to complete for um, warming stuff, we're gonna work on this bug. So I'm gonna put that in the notes or on the agenda. Sorry for the mix-up. That's what happens whenever you're flying by the seat of your pants. And copy the currently empty notes into the agenda as well, so that you can follow along as I write notes. So synchronize. Alright. So what is this bug? The bug says neither fill log. I should probably kick off a build locally now. Now that I've got something to work on in the parent. This build should be faster though, because the C caching stuff should be better, because it's a more recent central that I'd built yesterday. So in this bug, this was 22 days ago, filed 22 days ago, neither fill login nor fill password work for me in current nightly. This is with a fresh profile. Navigate to a page with a login form, save the login data in the door hanger dialog, reload the page, remove the auto-restored login data if there's any, right-click on either the username or the password field, and then select fill login or fill password respectively. Click on the previously stored login. And that doesn't happen. Instead, we get this exception. And Felipe was looking at this, and it looks like the error message comes from here. The A field object is meant to be a kapow. If I log, so if you're not sure what a kapow is, check out the glossary of the agenda, because there's a reference to it. Kapow. The field object is meant to be a kapow. If I log, is cross-process wrapper returns true as expected. If I try to print it, I get this warning. Kapow to string called on incompatible object, and all the checks at the beginning is create from field. Function fails. I'll continue to investigate in a minute before I ping people. Alternatively, the reason that this is a kapow is that the context menu hiding message arrives before the command from the context menu. Perry looked into this, and there was some weird bug, but we might have to find ways around that if we can't figure out what's wrong with the kapow implementation. So 15 days ago, I claimed this bug because Felipe wasn't working on it. And my build's not working. Why not? No. Oh. What? No such file or directory. Do I have some, like, thing on the tree? No. Build. Browser. Tools. Moz. Screenshots. What do I have checked out right now? Central. Don't make me do a clobber build. Fine, I'll do a clobber build. Okay. Every day I'm building. Building the servo. Oh, I am getting some cache hits though. That's nice. So the first step usually is to try and reproduce the issue. Make sure we can reproduce it. So let me open up a copy of Nightly while we're waiting for this build to finish. I'll open up my test profile. And I'm gonna go to some like login page, I guess. I think there's like a GitHub, like a sign in, radio task cluster login. Did Matt not have a bug? Is there like a username password login? Oh, that's just hanging in the browser. Let's login. Steal my login demo. So fill login test. and that doesn't work. And okay, so we can reproduce the issue very easily from this website, which I had been using earlier, or like a long time ago, to test the warning message that we display whenever the stuff's not coming over HTTPS. So we can definitely reproduce this issue. And now the question is why? Why? And how does it work? So let's take a look. The error message comes from here, according to Felipe. Create a login object from a password username field. If the field is an instance of an input element, if the field's not a type of password, and it's not a username field, it's not an owner document, and then okay, so it's not one of those. The field is meant to be a capow. This is in content. So why would we be in this branch of the code? Let's find out. I can actually open up the browser toolbox, probably. Let me get the browser toolbox going. Browser toolbox allows me to manipulate my browser. So we got the debugger here. Oh, actually what I want is not the browser toolbox, I want the browser content toolbox. So yeah, that's what I want. But the debugger part of it. So I want to debug, hello? You broken? I wonder if I accidentally just broke it. Let me try that again. It looks like there were a bunch of like errors there. So let's um, content toolbox debugger. It's not working. How come I don't have the debugger? That's terrible. Why would this be broken? I need this desperately. Okay. Let's go back in time a little bit. Moz regression, launch. Let's launch the nightly from today's October the 4th. Let's do October the 1st. Oh, I hate this part. So it's gonna like get all these dependencies because I haven't done Moz regression in a while, and then make me rerun the command. You know, once it's done thinking about it. Because I am punishing my machine right now. There's a lot going on. I'm doing a build. It's a multi-core build. Just gonna take a bite of my sandwich. I got a browser open. Just gonna run this build. See if the toolbox is working, the content toolbox. Someone sent me a message. I have to respond real quick. Sorry. Okay, let's see if we can get the toolbox working. First, we gotta go to that page we were. Steal my login. Oh, where is it? Steal my. Shoot. So I need to like reuse the profile. Because I don't have to create. You know what I should have done though is check to see whether or not it even worked. Uh, the browser content toolbox. Oh well, applications. What was it? Library and then application support. Support, Firefox, profiles, and then there's one called E10S 32TS is what it starts with. 32, yeah, that one. So use that one. Don't tell me you gotta go download it again. Come on, Moz Regression. Run it. Do it. Let's do this. I got so many builds. I'd like one to finish. So many builds. How close am I? Whew. Hard to say. I just want to run a Firefox here. Well, while we're waiting for this Moz regression thing to launch nightly, maybe we can understand a little bit more about the workflow here. What happens when you click on the fill? Oh, here we go. That's what I want. But there's like a fill login menu item, and that's got this label, and so I can trace to the UI that's how I like. If I'm not familiar with where the UI is, or if I'm not familiar with the UI thing, I'll like find a string and then go work from the strings to the UI code. That's usually pretty a pretty decent strategy if you're like trying to find your way around unfamiliar code. Okay, so here we go. I've got this fill login pop up, and so that's probably going to get populated with some stuff. And let's see here, fill login pop up. Here we go. In the context menu, we insert the fill login pop up. In it, password manager items. We get the password manager items, and then we must create a fragment. Fragment is add logins to menu. So that's going to be creating the document fragment, and it adds an event listener. Fill target field is what function is triggered when you click on it. And then we say login manager parent fill form, and then fill form. Send the relevant data to the child process. So we send this message, fill form, and we send the login form origin, the logins, and then the recipes, and some kind of object. The input element, which I would imagine the input element is the kapow. So here I am. Do I have a working content toolbox? I sure don't. That's too bad. When did that break? It'd be great to have that working right now. Let me launch an earlier nightly. I can try that again, just with an earlier nightly. I know this is taking a while. The good news is I can already tell that my local build is almost done so in the parent, and so we can like maybe start doing a little bit of actual mucking about in the code as opposed to using Moz regression to run old builds. See, look, I just built the Firefox binary, and now it's building all these test executables, which technically I don't need, but it's doing it. But I think I have to wait for the linking part to occur before I can really, truly call this finished. Meanwhile, beast mode is 20 minutes into this build, and something's going on. I think it's in the latter stages of the compilation as well. But man, that's taken a while. Yeah, we're finished linking all the libraries now. We're in the MISC part of the build step, almost done. So now I'm going to try launching, instead of the October 1st, let's go with September 1st. Great, and my local build is done. So I can actually should I wait for this? Yeah, let's just do it. So, can the content toolbox work here? Yeah, okay, great. So at some point, I better go find what the problem is. I should find a regression range for the content toolbox, because we need that thing working. But for now, let's see if we can reproduce the issue still. So right-click, fill login, test, does nothing. Great. So let's see if we can find out why. In login manager content, something's going to be responding to this message, fill form. So let's find out. Content, here's this stuff, and receive message, fill form, receive message. So in login manager content, we're going to be entering this fill form function. This one. So I'm going to set a breakpoint there, and I'm going to do this, fill login, test. Great, hit my debugger breakpoint. So what is the input element? It's a kapow, and it's undefined. It's an undefined kapow. Well, that's your problem right there. Input element, it's kapow, undefined. So we must have sent up an undefined? Is that true? That's crazy. Where does the parent get this kapow from? Login manager parent, input element, fill form. What calls fill form? I think we were discussing that earlier. It was like the context menu here. Fill target field. Fill target field. Fill target field passes the input element, which is the second argument to fill target field, which is fill target field. Where would you go again? Add logins to menu. Input element. Input element is the first argument to add logins to menu, and that should be this dot target. So the parent should have this dot target. So we're gonna stop, or we're gonna continue, and what I'm gonna do instead now is use the parent process, or the browser toolbox in the parent, and in login manager parent, I'm gonna close some of these old login manager parent. What was it called? Init password manager. Oh, it's not that one. It's add logins to menu. Add logins to menu. Right? Login manager. Context menu is what it's called, not login manager parent. So a login manager context menu. this is what we want to do. And then I'm going to right click, and then that's going to go here. And what is the input element? Is it a kapow? Is cross process wrapper input element? False. So it's just this weird object, this input element. And we don't know what it is, but it's not a kapow, but it is an object. And the owner document, what is it? Input element.owner document. That's another object, but it is not a kapow. And where'd that input element come from? Where'd that even come from? So let's go back to NS context menu. Some of the stuff's changed because like we got rid of what's called synchronous messaging for the context menu recently, and that I believe is what opened this bug in the first place. That's the regressor. So where's this input element coming from? In init password items, whoopsie daisy, whoopsie daisy. We're using this dot target, and so where does this dot target come from? We get context dot target, and context dot target is what? Context. Context, if we're using context menu content data, context we just create an object, and if there's context menu data, then we like set context. Object create null. If isRemote is false, context is just an empty object. And this target equals, oh, the document pop-up node. Got it. Okay, I understand. So what is G context menu context? Set context menu content data. Set context menu content data. Who calls that? Context menu.jsm. Handle content context menu. Data. If is remote, send async message context menu and then data, and then we pass all of this stuff up. And just so we're clear, the stuff that we care about, what we actually care about is the target. And the target is supposed to be context.target, and context.target is context data.context. Whew, so much abstraction context. And what's context here? Context.target is what? What is context? What is context? This dot context. Context.target equals clean target or node. When we set the context, remember the node. Hey event, the node is the event target. So wait. Let's go up the stack a little bit in this context menu. What is this dot context? This. What do we have here? Target is an object with a whole bunch of stuff on it that doesn't make sense. So somewhere along the way, context.target is not being set correctly, is my hypothesis. So let's go back into the, we can play here. So there's your context menu. And I can get rid of the breakpoint that I had set earlier. And we'll go back into the content toolbox, and we're going to open up something called contextmenu.jsm. And set context is what I think it was called. Set context. So now we're in the child process. We create a null. Context equals, what is context now? It's just an empty object. Then we like fill it with all this stuff. And what is the node? It's the input. Now that's what we care about. And at some point we get down to here, right? We're gonna get there. Yep. And so context.target is now the input. And then we enter this like set context for nodes with no children. At some point we must send the context to the parent, right? Send async message. Context menu. We send all of that up, including the context, whenever we get to, where are we? We're on line 566. So we were here when we set the context, and so we should eventually get here, and now context, we have the context that we created. This dot context, sorry. What? This dot context. This. Target. Context. There we go. Context dot target is the input element. Great. And then we do all of these things. And if we do that, then we clean the context. What does it mean to clean the context? Some things are not serializable, so we either have to only send their needed data or generate them in NS context menu, target and target owner document. So we like clean the target. That's why you can't, you're cleaning it. So you can't, you send that up as a clean non-kapow object, and then you send it back down. Okay, so we need to like, I have a feeling we need to store the, oh boy, context menu.jsm. Send async message. So event, like clean context. We clean it up, and then we send all of this stuff get target. Context menu. We send up this message with just the data. Okay, so we don't send a kapow up. That's why. That's why. I'm gonna write my findings in here. So, what's going on? It looks like the login manager code expects content code needs to deal with the actual DOM node, but when we send up the target to the parent, we clean it so that it becomes a serializable object. When we pass it back down to the child, it doesn't map properly to the DOM node that it cares about. So I've got a proposed solution here. Context is remote, content type. We're going to say clean context. So clean target owner document, object assign, clean target, context.target kapow as kapow equals not the clean target, but the context.target. Okay, so the kapow is going to go up, and then in login manager context menu, or sorry, in NS context menu, login manager context menu, instead of using this.target, we'll use target as kapow. Add logins to menu. Because I'm pretty sure we don't use the input element except as a thing to send down. Fill form, input element, login manager parent, parent, fill form, input element, objects equal. Yeah, that's what's up. That is what is up. Okay, so I think this should fix it. Let's double check. Oh, and my build for such and such is finished as well. So I'm going to shut this down. I can actually, whoop, shut everything down. That didn't work. Didn't work at all. Why not? Fill login, test2. Didn't work. Fill login, test. Doesn't work. Okay, so let's use the right, can't use the content toolbox. Why didn't it work? Well, I can't use the content toolbox to find out why, but I could maybe do some logging. So fill form. Login manager content. Dump got input element message objects input element. So let's see what happens when I do that. Mock build faster. Maybe I just forgot to build. That could also be. Fill undefined. What context menu? We should be passing the context target as kapow, and then target as kapow. This dot, is it this dot target or this dot context? And as context menu. Aha, you know what? This dot target equals this dot target as kapow equals this context dot target as kapow. That's what we're missing. I think that's what we're missing. Nope. Kapow to string called on an incompatible object in login manager content 260. 260. What? Is it a kapow that we're getting from the parent now? That shouldn't be. That should not be. Got input element kapow. cu.is cross process wrapper. Really wish I had that debugger working. I wouldn't have to do all this printing, presumably. It is a kapow. That's crazy. So hold on. What's going down to the content then? Input element, when we receive fill form, what's sending fill form, login manager parent, objects. Objects is dump input element is kapow. cu is cross process wrapper input element. Interesting. Input element is not a kapow. That is very strange. So fill form, dot fill form. That's not happening here, but as kapow, dump passing kapow to add logins to menu, and then cu dot is cross process wrapper this dot target as kapow. So what's the answer to that question? Lots of printf debugging. There's nothing shameful about printf debugging. It's just sometimes very slow. But ever since I started out programming, I've done printf debugging, and there's nothing wrong with it. Some people will tell you, oh, don't do it. Use a debugger. And yeah, sometimes a debugger is useful. Passing kapow to add logins to menu? False. So target dot target as kapow is wrong. Whoopsie daisy. Init items. Init items. Init menu. Set context. Dump setting got context target as kapow as a kapow. cu dot is cross process wrapper context target as kapow. Oh, I wonder if it's because context.target as kapow. Maybe I have to, oh, you know what it is? Clean context. We send the data, send async message data. That's why. Target as kapow, context.target, context, pop-up node. That's why. Target as kapow is context, not, shouldn't clean. Let target as kapow equal context dot target if target as kapow. And we send the target as kapow as the objects. And then in NS context menu, context menu is something that receives the message. Listener. Context menu. Open context menu. And with the message, open context menu, message. G context menu data. Data context data. Okay, so open context menu in NS. Open context menu. So target as kapow is data.com. A message.objects.target as kapow. Now I don't know if this is like there's probably a better way to put it, but I have a feeling this is the solution. Fill got input element kapow true. That's not right. Still not right. Still not right. Target as kapow. Dump got target as kapow. cu.is cross process wrapper a message.objects.target as kapow. At some point there's got to be a kapow. Am I right? Am I right? Come on. It's a little glitchy, right? Illegal value. A message.object is. Oh, can I? Fine. If you won't let me do that, can you just let me do this? This shouldn't have taken this long, to be honest, people. It's just a lot of me not understanding. Okay. Hitting the old breakpoint. So we have this message, objects, a message.objects, target as kapow. Nothing. We didn't get a target as kapow message. What? Data, send async message in IDL. Should take this message name, object, objects, transfers. What's transfers? Send async message. Data. One of them's kapow though, CPP. JSON objects. What is transfers? Dispatch. Message. Data. Kapows is the fourth, 1, 2, 3, fourth object. And the fourth object is 1, 2, 3. That's not right. Internal 2, 3, 4 objects, which should be the third argument, which is this. Dump sending objects target as kapow. What is target as kapow? It's context.target. Very confusing. So I don't even hit that code path. I'm not hitting this code path. What? Dump. Entered. Handle content. Context menu. Dump. Rutrow. Is E10S disabled? That might be why the context menu wasn't working. Is E10S disabled? That would really, that would explain it about preferences. No, E10S is enabled. So, okay. Passing. How are we? We don't even, we're not entering this block of code. Handle content context menu. So something else sent this message? Send async message context menu. Where's this? Browser modules. Just to double check. Build browser modules. Just in case build faster isn't properly building it. Where was I? Okay, good. Sending an object, the HTML input element, great. Good. So we send the target as a kapow. And then in the NS context menu, we should be getting a kapow back. So got target as kapow. Yep. Got context dot target as a kapow. False. Okay. So this one's a true kapow. And then we pass message objects target as kapow via g context. Oh. Da da da. So maybe I have to do it this way. Context. Data.context. Context.target as kapow equals data.objects.target as kapow. Or a message. Objects target as kapow. And then now will you work? Yep, you will. That's good. Fill login test 2. Great. Okay, so okay, found out what's going on here. We're not actually passing the input element as a kapow around anymore. We serialize it. We do an attempt at serializing it inside context menu.jsm via clean context. So what gets passed up is so it gets passed up goes through data, so instead of objects, so isn't a kapow. It looks like the login manager stuff was expecting the target to be a kapow though, since it passes it back down through objects. So what we end up doing is taking an object that was created in context menu.jsm in the content process, serialized properly through JSON, so not converted into a kapow, held by the parent in as context menu JS, passed to login manager context menu, and then sent down through objects, so then that object is converted into a kapow, which login manager content.jsm doesn't recognize as anything useful. What I suggest we do is to pass the target as a kapow explicitly marked, so to ns context menu.js. Nothing in ns context menu.js should try to access the kapow. In fact, this should cause us to throw, since the context menu message is no longer synchronous. But we can use that kapow as a reference to the DOM node in the content process and pass it back down with the login, the remote logins fill form message, so that the other side knows which input node where the context menu was opened on. Patch coming up. Okay. So let's create a decent patch now that we've sort of proven that this approach works, and it might be worth trying to create a test as well. So let's clean up this patch. First thing we do is get rid of all of our logging. So NS context menu had some logging right here, and then down below right here and here, and then login manager content, or login manager parent had one right there, and login manager content had one here. And so if I do htdiff, I shouldn't see any more logging. I think that's all of it. Oh, one more. Inside context menu.jsm. Two more. Rutrow. There's one. It's one of my favorite log messages. Rutrow. And here. I think that's all of them. Okay. One more look. And then we'll search for dump. Nope. Okay. So now is the let's look at the lifetime of this kapow. So when we handle the context menu, handle content context menu happens in the content process when we see the context menu event. One thing we want to do is check to see if the context.target is going to be target as kapow. Clean context. We'll send up the is there documentation already on clean context? Some things are not serializable. Assign clean target context.target. So we don't need to do this anymore. I don't think. Yeah. Okay. So then clean context doesn't. We have this target as kapow thing going up to the parent here. In the non-ETNS case, data set context menu content data G context menu is data is, and data to context. I wonder if we should put it, instead of in the context, we put it out here. Is the edit flags. So not in the context. Like, I don't even know what context is supposed to be. Context is what? What even is context? Set context from the event. It's like all of this information and the target. Maybe it makes sense inside the context. In that case, data to context, a message objects, target occupy, open context menu from the message. So data needs to have, in the non-ETNS case then, main win, data dot context dot target as kapow equals target as kapow. And it should go up through here. The target goes through here, and then NS context menu. We, in the non-ETNS case, we just like side jack it in here. We don't even go through any of this stuff. And then over here we do set the context target as kapow here. Context menu.jsm sends us the target as a kapow, not so just so that we can send that kapow back down to the content process and have it resolve to a DOM node. The parent should not, NS context menu should not attempt to access any properties on this kapow. In fact, doing so should throw an exception. Will throw an exception. Since only so that we can send the kapow, have it resolved to a DOM node. To a DOM node. Okay. Target as kapow. Context. And then target as kapow happens here when we can say set context. It's very complicated here. And we copy everything over again. Target as kapow. And then add logins to menu. Target only want fill. Right. And then login manager parent fill form objects input element. That should work. Okay. I think I'm happy with that. So let's test it for the e-tennis and non-e-tennis cases. Okay, great. Open a non-e-tennis window. Yeah, that works. Okay. So let's take a look at this patch. And then let's, if I do it, I'm going to do a test, then I'm going to do it in a separate patch. Send the pop-up, the target, the context menu target node up to the parent as an explicit kapow to fix the login, the fix login selection. Actually, I should probably put something more detailed into the commit message. Login manager parent expects either a DOM node, either a kapow or a DOM node in the non-e-tennis case to be passed as the input element for fill form, parent fill form, in bug such and such. What was the regressing bug? In bug such and such, we serialize the target in the content process so that the parent didn't have access to the kapow anymore. This patch adds a target as kapow property, target as kapow property to the NS context menu solely for passing back and forth between the parent and content processes. And not for access in the parent process. Back and forth, I need to clear this up. Solely for passing back and forth between the parent and content processes in order to refer to the DOM node in a sane way. Or to some DOM node, the target DOM node in a sane way. Don't even need that last bit in order to refer to the target DOM node. Post that up for review, see what Felipe thinks. And then I think I'm going to call this episode done. Dunzo. For realsies. Hey, I haven't even dropped any frames. That's great. Man, that's not where I expected this episode to go. I really sort of expected us to do more of the warming stuff, but then the build took up time, and then I ended up just fixing this other bug. Which is great, you know, because this other bug is something that I think is a blocker for 57. So, um, um, Let's publish that for now. I'm actually going to reserve photon performance. Hey Marco, this was some fallout from some photon performance work that I've taken on, that I took on once Felipe went on PTO, so we should probably add to our tracking. Okay, and that's it. I'm gonna write a test for that next, but I don't think I'm gonna record that part. Thanks so much for watching episode 115 of The Joy of Coding. I hope that was interesting. We actually fixed a thing. We did some investigation and fixed a thing. I also, hang on, one other thing I want to do is file a bug for that broken browser content toolbox, because that's a pain in the butt. So I'm going to do that next. Yeah, and then we'll see you next week. So take care. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week for episode 116. Take care. Bye bye. Oh, come on.
The joy of coding.
See ya.